Well, good morning and welcome to City Hall. We're going to get started with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Jeremy Carr is the pastor at Oak Cliff Church of the Nazarene, and he's brought his two sons with him today, Braxton and Benji. When we're through with the invocation, I'll ask the two of them to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. But would everyone please stand?
Good morning. Would you bow your heads with me? God of heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the life-giving rain, and we thank you for our very lives themselves, Lord. Lord, we thank you for these friends who have been elected from among us to be stewards of the city that we love. Lord, this morning we just simply pray for wisdom and for your peace and your love to rule in the hearts of our city this morning. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Sure,
before we get started, look, preacher, I want to tell you how much I appreciate the contribution you've made in the community that you serve there. It's outstanding. If all the churches would contribute to their areas the way that your church does, we'd be a better city for it, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Thanks.
Thanks. All right, we're on item 3 now of the council agenda. That's a series of appointments. I'll look for a motion. All right, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right. They're not all working? Mine's on. It's Ward 7. Oh, he's not here. Okay. Got it. All right, on to item 4. See if it goes smoother from here. Journal of Council Proceedings. 4A is to receive the journal for February 16th, and 4B is to approve the journal for February 9th. All right, comments or questions on the journal? Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 5 is request for uncontested continuances.
Mayor, several this morning, starting on page 11, under item 9E1, item A, 19900 Atagago Lane. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. In item M, 9507 North University. We ask that that be stricken. We need to re-notify. Item R, 3728 Northwest 26th Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Moving to page 12, AB, 1401 Southwest 65th Street. We ask that that be stricken. We need to re-notify. Item AE, 912 Northwest 95th Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item AF, 2612 Southwest 99th Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. And moving on to item 9F1, item A, 19900 Adiago Lane. We ask that that be stricken. The owner secured. Item J, 9507 North University. We ask that that be stricken. We need to re-notify. Item Z, 1401 Southwest 65th Street. We ask that that be stricken. We need to re-notify. Item AC, 2612 Southwest 99th Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured.
All right, any other requests for uncontested continuances? Move on to item 6. It's revocable permits. We have a couple of requests today. The first is from Gatewood Elementary School to hold the Gatewood Gator 5K on April 2nd. And Gina James and Gayla Goff are here. Come on forward, ladies. Tell us about this. We will need your name and address for the record, please.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Gina James, and I'm a 4th grade teacher at Gatewood Elementary. And this is Miss Gayla Goff, our principal. And the address of our school is 1821 Northwest 21st Street in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73106.
All right. Well, tell us about the Gator 5K.
Okay. This is our 3rd annual holding of the Gatewood Gator 5K. And it's to raise funds to complete our playground renovation. And we've between that and also our Kaboom grant, we've got a new playground equipment. We've put in a track. We've gotten trees donated, and so we're finishing up by adding some swing sets and any other little pieces we need to complete the renovation. And it's become a real community builder in our neighborhood. Parents, community members, teachers, students, they all come out and gather on our playground, and it's been an important thing for our community and gives our kids a safe place to go and get exercise. So it's been really neat to see how it's changing our surrounding area.
Sounds like a great project.
It is.
How can people sign up?
They can visit DG Productions website at www.dgroadracing.com, and it's on the calendar of events there. They can also visit our school webpage at okcps.com.
All right, and that's
Or
April
.org.
2nd, and it's in Ward 6. Meg?
That playground has been such a great addition to the school, and it was really wonderful to see everybody come together to help build it on that exciting day. So I'd move approval, Mayor.
Second.
All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then item 6B is a right-of-way use permit with the Oklahoma Hall of Fame Incorporated to hold the Oklahoma Hall of Fame Land Run on March 5th. And Shelley Rowan is here. Good morning.
Hi, I'm Shelley Rowan. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. Our organization's address is 1400 Classen Drive, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73106. We will be hosting the 5th annual Oklahoma Hall of Fame Land Run. Last year, we legally changed our name from the Oklahoma Heritage Association, and so formally that now, just same thing. It's organized by our team board, and it raises funds for a statewide scholarship competition and also free field trips to the Gaylord Pickens Museum that's located in Midtown Oklahoma City.
Yeah, and you all do get about a lot of scholarships, don't you?
We do. There's actually over $4 million in tuition waivers and cash scholarships for all throughout the state. So
That's great. And how can people be a part of this?
they can visit our website, oklahomahof.com/landrunrace, and they can register there. We will also be doing a packet pickup at Red Coyote the Wednesday before the race, the Friday at our museum, and then the day of the race, if you're in Midtown that morning, you can just stop by and sign up anytime before 8 a.m.
All right, well, thanks very much. Let's get a motion on this.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, good luck. All right, we'll recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority. There are 2 items. All right, comments or questions on the MFA? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCMFA, convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. Again, 2 items. All right, cast your votes on the PPA. It passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCPPA, convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. Just the claims and payroll today. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCEAT and reconvene the council meeting with the consent docket. All right, are there any individual considerations from the council?
Mayor, we do have Craig Freeman here to talk. We have 2 resolutions on authorizing the GO bonds and gold bonds.
Yes, thank you very much, Jim. We do have 2 items on. The gold bonds are $12 million, and this will complete the gold bond sale. The general obligation bond, the resolution that's on for general obligation bonds today is $77.5 million, and that will leave approximately $185 million left to sell out of the 2007 authorization. Both of these resolutions set the proposition amounts, and they establish the publication of the notice of sale. We will come back to you with the introduction on 2 ordinances on March 22nd. The actual sale will occur on March 29th, and the close will be scheduled for May the 17th.
All right, thanks.
And then Mayor, Christian York is here to talk to us. We have a budget amendment introduction of Christian York.
Chris is our operations manager, our operating budget manager in the budget office, and so Chris is going to present the budget amendment.
Okay.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. So the item in front of you is the second budget amendment for fiscal year 2016. The amendment affects several funds, the first of which is the Capital Improvements Projects Fund, with a $1 million increase to support the replacement of the Chickasaw Bricktown Ballpark scoreboard. The use of fund balance will be the revenue source for that increase. 2 other items, both in the CIP fund, one for bicentennial park improvements in the amount of $950,000 will help support Wi-Fi and electrical infrastructure improvements at the park to move the Arts Festival to that new venue. And also a $850,000 increase that will support the expansion and renovation of the Capitol Hill Library. Both of those last two items are supported by transfers from the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust. The fourth item is a debt service fund realignment. This is a routine item that we bring before council every year. The background of which is during the budget adoption process, we're working off of our best estimates on judgments, our debt service needs, as well as ad valorem taxes. However, we don't receive those final figures from the County Excise Board until after August, which of course the budget's already adopted by that time. So this item simply trues up our estimate with the actual figures we received. The Hotel Motel Tax Fund is requesting an increase of $946,000. This is just relevant to higher revenue than expected in the current fiscal year. Two items for the Special Purpose Fund. The first for the Railroad Quiet Zone. This is simply increasing our budget authority to expend some existing funds in our fund balance in the amount of $142,000 to support projects such as signage and roadway improvements to improve that railroad quiet zone. The next is a return of funds from ODOT in the amount of $655,000. This was for a joint project with ODOT. The funds weren't completely expended, and so they were returned to us. However, the originating funds that we used to send to ODOT were GEO bond revenue. And unfortunately, those accounts are no longer active, so we'll be moving these into the Special Purpose Fund, and they will be restricted in their use just like they would be if they were GEO bond revenue. The final item has a few transactions going on, all of which pertain to the city auditor's audit of the Maps for Kids Fund and Maps 3 Sales Tax Fund, most of which pertain to the 1% for the Arts Program. So a little background on that. The 1% for the Arts Program has dedicated accounts located in the Special Purpose Fund where we, as the year goes on and we identify projects and monies for that program, we move those funds and consolidate them in the Special Purpose Fund and expend them from that location. Well, the city auditor recommended that when we're dealing with restricted use funds, such as MAPS 3 and MAPS for Kids, that it would be more appropriate to simply expend those funds in the original tax rather than move it to the Special Purpose Fund and expend it from there. So the increases that you're seeing, such as the $400,000 for Special Purpose Fund, is simply returning the money back to MAPS 3. You're seeing a like increase in the MAPS 3 sales tax of $400,000 to expend that money on 1% for the arts as it was intended. And then finally, there's an $123,000 increase in the Internal Service Fund. This was related to some charges, which upon further review they were related to IT charges to MAPS 3, which upon further review couldn't be supported by the documentation that we had on hand. So this is simply the Internal Service Fund refunding MAPS 3 those charges. So all in all, the total amendment increases revenue and expenses by $10.3 million and brings the overall city budget to $1.27 billion. And with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any comments or questions? All right, ready to vote the consent docket? Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. On to the concurrence docket. Is there a motion? All right, there's a motion and a second. Comments or questions on the concurrence? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. We're on to item 9. These are items that require a separate vote. We'll begin with a series of items that have come to us from the Traffic Commission. The first is a metered parking issue on West Main, and it's in Ward 6. Meg?
It looks like we have a series of these. Some of them are related to the 499 project, and a couple of them related to the L2 apartments over at 11th and Chartel. So starting with A1, I'd move approval.
Second.
All right, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Meg, just keep on going.
I will.
A2,
A2, move approval.
Second.
cast your votes. Passes unanimously. A3,
A3 are the L2 apartments, and move approval.
Second.
cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9A4.
A4, move approval.
Second.
All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9A5.
A5, back to the L2 apartments, move approval.
Second.
Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9A6.
Yeah, Ward 6, this is, move approval, please.
Second.
All right, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9A7.
Another one on L2, move approval.
Second.
All right, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9A8.
And A8 is the Plaza Court building for handicap space, move approval.
Second.
All right, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right. Item 9B is a continued part of the project plan for,
Downtown TIFs, addition downtown TIFs. This is a continuation of the discussion that we had on February 9th when this was introduced to council. And there was a lengthy discussion at that time, and Kathy is here to answer some follow-up questions.
Yeah. Item B is the amendment to the Downtown Maps TIF project plan for certain amendments. At the meeting on February 9th, we provided a presentation to council that had quite a bit of detail about all of the steps in the process and details about what the amendments were. I wanted to go through, first of all, though, answers to some of the questions that you had during that discussion, and then go back through the specifics of the amendment to the Downtown Maps TIF district. So first of all, Councilman White had some questions about review procedures that were included in the amendment to the amendment to the Downtown Maps project plan and in the Core to Shore project plan. We have proposed an amendment to the downtown plan that would require a review of the entire project plan and the budget every 5 years, with the first review to start July 1st, 2020. And the first national TIF is included in that requirement. So it would have a 5-year review beginning July 1st, 2020. In the Core to Shore plan, we have also included a review requirement that will begin 10 years after the plan is adopted on February 23rd of 2026. We believe that this 10-year review period allows us adequate time for the TIF to be in place, to see how it performs, and that would cover each of the different TIF districts that are a part of that Core to Shore project plan. There was a question about the Northeast Renaissance TIF project plan. It does not include a review provision, and certainly as we go forward with that, we can look at that. It doesn't have any increment yet, and so we'll just have to wait and see how things go with that project plan as we move forward. So that was to address the questions about review procedures. The second question, Councilman Greenwell asked some questions about ad valorem taxes in Oklahoma City and the difference between market value and taxable market value. Currently, the total ad valorem taxes that are received in Oklahoma City are about $79.7 million. Those are from all the counties that are a part of Oklahoma City. The most reliable information that we have about market value and taxable market value comes from Oklahoma County. Oklahoma County has a great website, and their assessor's office does a great job maintaining records, and it's very easy to accumulate and process. So the difference, the taxable market value in Oklahoma County is about 92.7% of the market value. So I'm not really sure where Councilman Greenwell was going with those questions, but that's where we are with ad valorem taxes in Oklahoma City.
Kathy, thank you. No, this answers my question. I just had the impression that the gap would be greater than what it is, so thank you.
Sure. Finally, there were some questions about the amount of sales tax that is in each of the different TIF districts that we've approved. Only a few of the TIF districts that the council has adopted have the provision for sales tax. The first one that we included a sales tax provision for was with the Skirvin TIF district. It has a budget of approximately $5 million. In the Skirvin, Dell, and Devon, there is no specific line item that says sales tax TIF in the project plan. It's a narrative description of sales tax and how it will be calculated and determined as a part of the project plan. So the estimated budget for the SCIRV and the estimated amount of sales tax revenue from that project is about $5 million over the years that we will be eligible to receive sales tax. In the Dell TIF district, again, It also includes a sales tax component, and that estimated revenue is $5 million. In the Devon TIF, we did include sales tax revenue as a part of that TIF district. It was related to the sales taxes generated by construction materials involved in the construction of the Devon headquarters, and that estimated revenue is at $10 million. The Northeast Renaissance TIF district does include a sales tax component, and in fact, it's a very important component of that project plan, and the estimated revenue from that that's spelled out in the project plan is $20 million. And finally, in the proposed Court Shore TIF district in District A, and that is the only district that there is the allowance in the project plan for sales tax to be included as a part of TIF, is in the District A, which is the area around the Myriad Gardens and the new MAPS 3 Park. At this time, that amount is unknown. It will be determined on a project-by-project basis, and projects will have to meet certain criteria and be approved by City Council in order to be eligible for sales tax.
The one question I had last time in listening to your presentation is when will there be a sales tax component and when there will not be? And I guess from looking at this, it's just driven by the type of development, which is if it's a commercial development, it's going to have a sales tax component.
Yeah, it really is driven by the type of development. And
Okay.
Sales tax doesn't apply to residential development, for example. It really has to have a commercial component, whether that's, office development or commercial space that could even be used for retail or hotel. In the example of the Skirvin, that would be the determining factor, or one of them.
Kathy, with regard to the sales tax portion of it, could you explain how it works? What's the trigger for it? I mean, if a specific project is supported by TIF in an area that has sales tax, is just that facility's sales tax increase counted?
Yes.
Not increases in the entire
area.
district, just project by project?
It's project by project, and as a recent example, in the Northeast Renaissance TIF, we approved an allocation for the Northeast Shopping Center.
Right.
A great portion of that TIF allocation will be driven by the sales tax revenues generated by that facility alone.
But if
That's how we do it. We look at it on a case-by-case basis, and it's only the sales tax revenues that are new to that project, and our process is that we greatly discount those. For example, the developer may say, we're going to generate $600,000 in sales tax over the life of the project. We only take a very, very small percentage of that.
Right.
I would say around 12.5%.
And I want to point out, we don't do a lot of sales tax tests. Have been just a handful to date. And outside of our regular policies, the city manager's office makes, I don't like them. And so I really make Kathy.
He holds our feet to the fire on the sales
Well,
tax component.
it seems if there is a project that a sales tax TIF would work on, it's the Northeast project. The whole idea is to generate sales in there.
Yes.
So, I mean, it seems to me that's reasonable.
Well, and the fact of the matter is that is an area where there isn't enough revenue to make the project successful only from the property tax portion of the TIF. And so you're going to have to make those viable, you're going to have to add some sales tax.
That's exactly
I don't want to interrupt your train of thought, but I should have said something when you finished that review, business about reviews. What I'm concerned about is what do you mean by review? What does that mean? A presentation back here, or an up-down vote on whether to continue it, or what does that mean?
I think what it would involve is a review by staff of the performance of the TIF to date, what revenues have been generated with it, what projects have been supported, whether or not it's achieved its objectives under the project plan, and then that information would be reported back to the city council, and the city council would decide how to proceed.
The time, I think, is all right, but I also would like to see a review triggered by a percentage of the original TIF budget. The one we have downtown is what, 3 or 4 times what the original budget was? And I think we should have reviewed that. We probably would have said okay going forward, but I would like, what I'm worried about is without some kind of a mechanism that forces us to look at these and to evaluate whether they're working or not, now we're looking at putting them on the table for 35 years out in the future. And I don't think that's good planning. I mean, I just think that it's a subsidy, and I think we ought to, when we're giving the taxpayers' money away, which we are to subsidize these facilities, and that's all well and good. The First National's a great idea, Skirvin's a good idea, Dell was a great idea, all these things, Devon Tower worked fine. But I do think we have an obligation to look at them more frequently than we've done in the past. Would it be possible to amend that trigger to say 150% of the original budget, include that into the triggers for?
Well, if we reach 150% of the budget, the TIF would not be, I mean, you would let it expire, I believe.
Well, we didn't do that on the downtown one. I mean, it's
Because you've amended it, and we've gone back through the process
I think that's one of
completely
the
from the
keys.
beginning.
Go forward. When it hits 100%, we can't spend more than 100% of the budget with authorization. So anytime it's expanded, it does come back to the Economic Development Trust and the City Council for expansion of the budget. And so there is that review process. That being said, yes, we can add some triggers in there, Councilman,
Right.
if you want to. If you want to do that. But the fact of the matter is, we set a budget, and we cannot exceed that budget without having the council and the TIF Review Committee and the Economic Development Trust and all go and amend that budget.
My big long-term concern is that without a way to test whether or not they still are necessary is not included in any of these things. And I've asked about what would be a reasonable way to do that. And as near as I can tell, the only way to do it is stop. You can't evaluate whether they would, the but-for test is never really tested if the money's always out there. You have to say, the ultimate test is really, would you build it without the subsidy? And there's no way to do that as long as the subsidy exists.
And we believe that we test the but-for on a project-by-project basis by evaluating the financial information that's provided by the developers, and that project would not be completed without the TIF assistance.
I just think that's an awesome responsibility for you or for somebody else.
And we would, when I said the review would include a review of the financial performance of the TIF, that's exactly what I meant, is that we would have to evaluate it on a budget category by budget category, method and examine whether or not are we at 85% of the budget? Are we at 20% of the budget? What kinds of projects have we been able to accomplish to date? And have we achieved the kind of economic impact that we believe is possible from the TIF district? And that's really what it's about, is creating economic development, economic impact for the community that spreads beyond the boundaries of the TIF.
I'm struck by how much we've gained in this area in the last 6 or 8 months, about the knowledge that people have about it, the difference in the way the I-89, for instance, approaches it today as opposed to the way they approached it before. But I think that's the result of a serious effort at furthering transparency. And that's what that's what I want to see in the future. I think I've become personally from a kind of a skeptic to a kind of a supporter. I mean, the needle for me has moved a long ways. It really has. But I think the reason it has is because both you people on your side of it and the school side of it and the council side of it all know more about each other now. Now I see Butch sitting there, and he probably wishes we'd had the same kind of sit-downs with the county as we did with the school.
And we do. We spent a lot of time with Oklahoma County.
But I think we've profited by that, and I don't want to vote today yes on this thing and see then 5 years from now, 10 years from now, another person sitting in this chair wondering what the heck's going on. I mean, I think we've got to have this constant review and look at it, because it's millions and millions of dollars.
And one thing I just want to say is that we do provide the city council and all of the taxing jurisdictions with annual reports. We are required by state law to prepare an annual report. We have tried to make those more user-friendly and easy to understand in the last few years.
You don't need to be defensive. I think you've done everything. I'm just asking for more. I don't think there's any question that the reports have been out there. But I would tell you that I believe that the understanding of what they mean has been greatly enhanced by the last 6 months of explaining
I would
to folks.
absolutely agree.
And I just don't want that situation, us to get through today, vote today, and then go right back to that kind of situation that I think was there before. I mean, we discovered some things that none of us knew in this process. I mean, I think that's true of all the entities that have sat around the table. There have been information developed that none of us knew.
Right. I agree, and I greatly enjoyed and appreciated getting to learn more about the school district and their challenges, and hope that we can continue to meet on a regular basis and talk about those things.
Councilman, when the budget hits 100%, we can't expend any more with that without taking it to council.
Right.
I hear you that you would like another check in that
Right.
process at some point in time.
Right.
So would you like to have a trigger in there, make an amendment to have a trigger in there at 150% where we do a full review and staff review and bring it to council for review at that point in time?
I would.
We can make that happen if that's the desire.
Talking about learning about it, and I've sat here now 11 years now on this juncture, and I never realized that those amendments were really an opportunity to say no. But I should have, but I didn't. And I'm not sure everybody around this horseshoe did either. I don't want to, I mean, I'll just admit I did not understand it that way. I'm not sure. I mean, it seemed like we were kind of on a, we were joined the cheer squad and just attaboy and went forward without a full analysis of what happens. I'm still very skeptical that without some kind of a way to actually stop giving away the money, that you'll ever really, the but-for test is not really ever met. As a student of human nature, I just know that as long as the money's out there, people are going to devise a plan to try to get it, and it becomes a contest of whether they can convince you they really need it or not. And many times there's a lot more of them than there is of you, and I'm not sure that is a real test. It's not a criticism. You guys you and Brett and Wiley have done a great job, I think. I'm just concerned that in the past, it hasn't been transparent enough, and I want to make sure that it remains as transparent as it's been for the last 6 months on into the future, because with the economic situation we're in right now, the idea of planning out 35 years is a slippery slope, it seems to me.
Excuse, I'm sorry, are you two finished? Could you go back to that page, Kathy, that showed the total ad valorem tax from Oklahoma County and the assessed value?
Yeah, that's taxable market value. That isn't assessed value. Assessed value is something different, I believe.
Well, I've got a question, and it probably ties back into that. And perhaps our county treasurer, Mr. Freeman, might be prepared to provide some input on this, but if we look at the example that's on the county assessor's homepage on their website, it gives an example of a residential home that's worth $50,000, and then you take out the homestead exemption and you come down to the taxes on that $50,000 home. It comes out to $450 per year. That's 1/4 of 1%.
Right.
Now, no, I'm sorry, that comes out to 9/10
It
of
should be about
1%.
1%.
Yeah, 9/10 of 1% once you pull out the homestead exemption. If you look here, the 80 million compared to 33 billion is 1/4 of 1%. So my question is, what happened to that 0.75%? Is there that much land that is non-taxable here in Oklahoma County because it's government-owned?
Well, if it would not even have a market value assigned to it in the website, I don't believe. I think there's different property that's assessed at different rates. There is a great deal, the assessment ratio, the rate is 11% of
Right.
the taxable market value, less the homestead exemption if it's a residential homestead property. I think.
But commercial rates are not less than residential rates.
No.
So just,
Business personal property is even higher.
yeah, so if you back it in, we should be generating well over 200 million versus only 80 million.
We'd have to get more information for you and look at that separately
Yeah.
from this. It really is, it's a great discussion and something that maybe the city's finance staff can help get to the bottom of. Again, and one thing to point out is that these market value and taxable market value numbers are only for Oklahoma County. So it doesn't include Cleveland and Canadian County, which does have fairly significant market value.
Oh, I know, but then that number should be even higher, that 79.7. I'm saying if you look at the ratio, we should have over 200 million of ad valorem taxes generated here. Well over 200. If you bring in Cleveland County and the other counties, I would say well over 300 million.
Well, and let us get back to
Yeah.
you on that, with that information.
It's just not working out the numbers. I'm sorry.
That's perfectly fine. I don't have that with me right now, and I think it's a little bit more research that we would need to do to get to the bottom of it.
One of the other issues, too, is when you look at taxable property, if you're looking at an individual home, and you're just looking at what the tax would be on that home, that's the full tax for all taxing jurisdictions. The city of Oklahoma City is only 16 mills. Most would probably run between, I don't know, Butch, is it like 100, in Oklahoma County, is it 120?
It's between 110, it's between 110
About
and
106.
114
So it's about
mills.
106 mills. Well, the city of Oklahoma City is
he's
only
absolutely right.
16.
Oklahoma
Okay,
City's
so-
share of that is only about 14% of the total.
So we go back to this one page. What you're reflecting is just the Oklahoma City's share. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Craig's absolutely right, yeah.
Well, so the city gets a share of the ad valorem taxes. What happens to that money? Does it
use it
just
to-
comes into our general fund?
No, you use it to retire general obligation bond debt and to pay judgments against the city.
And that's it?
That's it. Cannot be used for operating expenses.
Thank you.
That's your 16 mills that you just authorized to sell more bonds to support. Okay.
Quick question, Kathy, if I could.
Sure.
There's been some question here about the length of the TIF districts, and 35 years was mentioned.
No, each TIF district can only last 25 years.
Okay. Can it last less than 25 years?
Yes, it can.
That's what I wanted to get across.
But still,
Why would we choose 25 or 15 or 10? What's the logic behind that from a,
25 years is the statutory maximum amount that the TIF district can be in effect.
so if I was uncomfortable with that, we could elect in the future to set up TIFs at 20 years.
Or, yes, absolutely.
So that's under our control.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ed,
Quick,
you want to
may
say?
may I ask one quick question?
Sure.
And then I'll try not to interrupt anymore. I'm so sorry. But I was able to get a copy from staff of your presentation that you made to us, and it was really helpful. And the amendment to District 2, the proposed TIF District 2 amendment, I didn't understand, there's these different categories, and there's the budget, and there's the amendment, and then the amended budget. And two categories that jumped out at me, I mean, we talked, there's residential, there's commercial, there's public schools, but the two categories that jumped out at me were public parking and other public development costs. There were no amendments to those amounts. Can you give me some clarification on the thought process behind that? And can you explain to me what other public development costs really are?
Yeah, sure. The amendments to the TIF include increases for residential development, commercial, public schools, and money for the other taxing jurisdictions. And just as a reminder, this is money for specific projects to be allocated to the other taxing jurisdictions. It is not a part of the indirect increment that they also receive in TIF number 2. Public parking, the original categories in the project plan when it was adopted in 2001 were residential, commercial, public schools, and public parking and other public development costs. What we are proposing is to change the public schools category so that it is only available for I-89 and would not include Metro Tech or other institutions of education, and redefine the other taxing jurisdictions category to be all of the other taxing jurisdictions except for I-89. So that other taxing jurisdictions is a new category. Public parking was put in there in 2000 in the belief that we would use TIF to help develop public parking garages in Oklahoma City. To date, we have not used the money for that. We felt $9 million was an adequate allocation to the budget to cover us in the future if we did feel we needed to help subsidize public parking development. So that's basically what that is.
But I hear people saying over and over, downtown we don't have enough public parking, we don't have enough public parking. Do you think that's an adequate number?
I think that's an adequate number for this TIF district. I think in a more general sense, it's also included as a part of the Court Shore TIF, just a broader general category. We have expended some money for public parking. There's been some money that was allocated to Century Center and to the Arts District Garage just recently. So the budget amount is not necessarily a representation of the remaining budget authority in that category. Other public development costs has been used to fund things like land acquisition. Some of the land around the Boathouse District was funded through this category. The shoreline improvements on the Oklahoma River, some other infrastructure kinds of projects, including, I think, the alley project in the Cottage District. We're doing improvements in Bricktown right now along the canal and sidewalks. So it's other public development costs is basically infrastructure.
Good. Thank you.
And land acquisition. I'm going to go back one slide just really quick, just to go through the amendment, and then I think that will be it for item B. Just again, we're increasing the TIF 2 budget categories. We went through that just a minute ago. We have expanded the project area. The project area is the area defined in the plan where the money can be expended, and we've extended that south of Southwest 30th Street. Right now it ends at Southwest 27th. We've changed the allocation methodology for the indirect increment at the request of I-89. So now that it's based on their operating levy with no offsets, basically I think the school district will receive about 57% of the indirect increment. There's an amendment to allow the other taxing jurisdictions to spend their funds outside of the project area, which again was requested. And then it also carves out an area for the First National Center TIF and the Court Shore TIF. This is the area that's been excluded from TIF 2 to create the new First National Center TIF, or TIF number 10. Again, it has a project plan budget of $45 million, an expected term of 25 years, and it includes ad valorem and sales tax. I don't know if you want to stop here and vote on item B, or...
I think we want to see both presentations and then vote on both of them.
Okay. The next item is the creation of the new Court Shore TIF district. As we talked about on February 9th, this project plan includes the creation of 6 separate tax increment financing districts. The first district that we anticipate that will be created is District A, which we call the South CBD Central Park TIF District. Each of the other TIF districts would be created upon approval by the City Council and would each last 25 years. The creation of each of these districts has to be accomplished within 10 years of the original adoption of the project plan. So you may or may not choose in the future to create some of these TIF districts. Some of them may never be triggered by the City Council, and the way the project plan is written, it gives you that flexibility. Again, it consists of 6 different TIF districts under one project plan. The area is currently generating about $1,254,000 in ad valorem taxes. About $313,000 of that is in TIF 2. There's no new increment districts that will be initiated today. We will come back with a council resolution to create the first district at a later date. The project plan budget includes a project plan by the categories of expenditure. So there is $300 million allocated for assistance and development financing. These are the funds that are allocated for commercial, hotel, residential projects within each of the 6 TIF districts over the life of the TIF. There is funding for public improvements, which would, by the way, include infrastructure improvements in the area, and we do anticipate that there will be some infrastructure requirements in Core to Shore because the area has been very much underdeveloped for 100 years. There's $16.6 million for the public schools for I-89, in particular 6.2 for Metro Tech, 4.2 for Oklahoma County, $2 million for the Metropolitan Library System, and $1 million for City County Health. The total budget is $395 million. Also, the budget is divided by district. I don't know if we included that. I should have brought last week's presentation, but the largest district is the South CBD TIF, which I believe is at $167 million, and the remaining of them have much smaller allocation amounts. It is included in the project plan that's in your packet. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
We have some citizens who have signed up to speak. You want to say something, Ed?
A quick question. Somebody asked me a question I didn't know the answer. On the indirect, 2 weeks ago you said something about 75, on the indirect increment when 75% goes to cities and schools, it begins when the district annual growth, which is currently at 1.45%, plus an additional 40% is exceeded, something like that? Is that?
Oh, I'd have to go grab the economic impact report, and I didn't bring it in here. It is based upon the rate of growth in the area right now, so that once projects are created and they generate indirect increment, the school districts begin to, for example, all the other taxing jurisdictions begin to benefit immediately. And that when that growth rate exceeds 40, I'm going to get this wrong.
Okay.
I just wasn't prepared to do that again this morning. So
Okay.
Let me get with you and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
But in the Core to Shore TIF district, the other taxing jurisdictions will receive 75% of the indirect increment versus the 50% that they receive in the downtown TIF district.
Right. Any other questions for Kathy?
I have some comments, but I'll wait till after the citizens.
Okay. Joe Sarge Nelson. Yeah, okay. All right, that's fine. Dennis Portis.
Good morning, Mayor Mick Cornett and
morning,
City Council
Dennis.
officials. Thank you for having me this morning.
We'll need your name and address for the record.
Absolutely.
And if
Dennis
we're-
Portis, Associate Superintendent, Metro Technology Centers, 1900.
We're going to ask everyone to keep their comments to 3 minutes or less, just trying to set the standard for,
Thank you very much.
for what's to come.
Okay. Well, I come here in support of the proposed amendments to TIF 2 as it relates to education. As I stand before you today as an educator, especially in the career tech system, I can easily be up here in opposition to the whole concept of TIF. This is especially true with all tech centers as our primary source of funding is generated through ad valorem collections. As you can see, fundamentally, TIF districts could jeopardize the ability of districts to reach its full revenue potential. TIF districts could even be more impactful to a tech center like Metro Tech in Oklahoma City, in which I'm representing, whose district includes the downtown area and contains more TIF districts in its boundaries than any other tech district in the state. Not to mention the beyond belief funding cuts to our state that is made to education. Our career tech system, which is seen by many as the best career tech system in the nation, has suffered greatly. But our system also recognizes that the suffrage is even greater with our common education counterparts like Oklahoma City Public Schools, Millwood Public Schools, and other urban, suburban, and rural districts that primarily are dependent on state aid. Just to give you an idea, Metro Tech's funding cuts have been in excess of $700,000 this year. And what does that mean? Well, for us, it means a lot less teachers, a lot less programs, and a lot less high schoolers and adults being provided training opportunities to help them become employed, help them go to college, and ultimately help them become positive contributors to our economy. But I'm not here to talk about the obvious or to turn this into a political forum about what's happening and not happening at 23rd and Lincoln, but I am here to talk to you briefly what's happening at our City Hall today. As we think about our current condition of our economic environment, it will be important that we focus on the big picture. This idea holds true for the school district I represent as well. The purpose of TIF districts is rooted in economic development, and for a technology center like Metro Tech, economic development is critical to accomplishment of its mission. Our students need jobs, and quite frankly, TIF districts help create them in Oklahoma City. There is a direct correlation to the availability of jobs in Oklahoma and the level of success of our students have in completing our career training programs. This is fairly simple and obvious, but sometimes it's easily forgotten when competition for money and resources become the primary objectives of schools, state departments, and businesses. Unfortunately, the mindset becomes that of survival, and we lose sight of the big picture. Additionally, we lose the ability to reach our potential when our focus is only to ensure that the doors will be open today, tomorrow, and weeks ahead. If our state doesn't find more innovative and creative solutions soon, this way of business is not only going to be explained as a reaction to our current circumstances, but it's also going to be known as what is the culture of Oklahoma. Fortunately, the city of Oklahoma City has recognized this for quite some time and has incorporated some very innovative approaches for years now. Our school district has observed a strong commitment from the Alliance and the Oklahoma City Development Office to find innovative ways to support and enhance the capabilities of educational institutions located in the Oklahoma City metropolitan area. Project support will be greatly appreciated for Metro Technology Center, especially as its boundaries are no less than 140 square miles of residences, businesses, and partnering school districts, including Oklahoma City Public Schools, Crooked Oak, Millwood, and other districts. Our district impacts thousands of high school students and hundreds of businesses and companies throughout the metropolitan area. In closing, and this time in education is obviously undervalued at the state capitol, the city of Oklahoma City has a great opportunity to act differently and continue to send the right message that education is important, and we're not afraid to show it. In closing, our district fully supports the amended TIF district proposal, as well as the creation of future TIF districts. I thank Mayor Mick Cornett and the City Council in advance for having the courage and audacity for making education a priority and finding innovative ways to ensure that every child and adult in our city has a fair chance to learn, grow, and thrive. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
Michael Washington.
Thank you. Again, Michael Washington, Post Office Box 53153, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73152. Thank you, everybody. Everybody got your eyes open? Because we're not going to play today. First of all, this TIF, Tax Increment Finance Program, is a mockery of justice. Let me add that. We stated here, for the most part, that according to Section 9B, approving and adopting an amended, restated downtown MAPS economic development program, for I believe more than $300 million that was never put in the newspapers. And You want to know why? Because it's designed for this economic development program to protect their teams and obviously not slandering anyone, but possibly to put money in somebody's pocket under the table, which is a good example about this gentleman here, brother, Mr. David Greenwell. I say brother because, again, all humans are important to me. So don't let everybody get anything wrong. I'm definitely not a racist. I am definitely a realist. Now, the lady here spoke about there being more than $4 million to the northeast side of Oklahoma City. Now, this is what my ears have related to me. I hope I'm not direct. Please, somebody correct me. If that being the case, now we already know that we have 3 basic programs on the northeast side that $4 million is basically given to. Are y'all ready for this one? It's given to the Northeast Shopping Center. It's given to the Buy for Less store. And it's given to this Woodson School thing, which, again, I don't know exactly. I think Miss Kathy O'Connor here is very close and friends with all these people. Okay, now I don't know for sure, but then again, let me ask you is this as well. Now, if you got $4 million, for over $4 million, $4,200 issued on the northeast side, basically that amount is already gone, am I not, Miss Kathy O'Connor, to those basic 3 already entrepreneurs who live outside of my districts, who in turn don't know anything about where I live or where I come from, okay? I have seen nothing of that $4 million, I'm sure she's sitting right there, that's going to those 3 people, has been given to anything. Basically, I run a nonprofit organization. Nothing has been offered to me, and yet I have an economic plan, which they refuse to see me. Again, she's sitting here. I just submitted a request for Michael Owens, this so-called high-respected guy on the northeast side, again, which I don't respect at all. But at least I'm real with you. Now, this man here was placed in that position to make sure that African Americans in the African American community do not get their fair share of these millions of dollars that's slated for the northeast side of Oklahoma City. And I'm here right now going to tell you, I'm not going to tell you what else I'm trying to do, but anyhow, I'm here wanting to tell you right now that this man here, a city council, is also an at-large person on the TIF Trust Committee. This man has a personal interest in everything being passed regarding the northeast side. Okay? Let us understand this fact. It is a fact. This man is on the Economic Trust Economic Development Program. If you think I'm lying to you, everybody ask your councilman before he leaves. John Pettis is. Now, let me also say, I love talking. And I love putting the truth out because I can't be bought off and I will not be denied. Now, I don't like a program that was created in 2011, and yet the citizens basically do not have access to the materials and business creations when I've asked repeatedly to sit down and talk to Michael Owens, the community development for the northeast side, and there's his boss sitting here.
Why are we permitting him to speak? He has announced that he's a candidate for...
Oh, no. You're right, sir. You need to read your book.
Just shut up a minute. He has no...
You need to read your book.
This issue, he cannot speak under citizens to be heard.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Now you learned something.
Michael, I do need you to wrap it up.
Yes, I will. Thank you. I would have had it done if he had not, stated something he didn't know. Thank you, there. Now then, let me also say, how is it necessary for us to create a so-called TIF economic development program, tax finance program, when you already have the Urban League, not Urban League, but Urban Renewal, okay, that's already there. So what that's telling me is that these people are shading this money off and to give it to personal friendship and excluding the African American community, where I myself run a nonprofit, which is, in fact, in the documentation that this lady has given me, that we have a right to be given the money to, but I had nothing.
Michael, I think you've made your point very well. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
All right, Ed, you wanted to make some comments?
That's a tough act to follow, but I know that this ship has sailed. The Chamber is advertising their $50 luncheon thing on March 24th to hear Kathy and Russell Evans talk about the new TIF. I understand it's all been decided. I'd like to make some comments, if I can, just in opposition, and ask us maybe to slow down and continue to process this, because I think that this is a better proposal than a year ago. The design guidelines are good, the way that the things we've learned about the schools. It's a better proposal. It's a better proposal because of the discussion that we had. I wish there wouldn't have been the media blackout. I wish we could have got the media involved and gotten the public involved to a greater extent, because we're all the beneficiaries of that when that happens, and it hasn't happened in this case on something that's bigger than the original maps. We're increasing TIF 2 by $44 million. We are wildly in excess of our original budget of about $47 million. I don't know at what point you say you've met your goal if you're at 400% of your original budget. We have $63 million in TIF 2 now that are not allocated. $63 million that we can now spend. Everything that all the area for the Court Shore plan is included in TIF 2. And we have $63 million that have not been allocated that we can spend on economic development. It seems like we should finish our dinner before we go on to dessert. Let's spend the $63 million, which we know we're still 9 years away from the goal line, from the finish line. We know that's going to increase just as we're increasing at $44 million today. It could be $100 million. Why don't we spend the $100 million first and then expand 6 new TIF districts? I think what's clear is that from this process, what limited public discussion we've had, which really came from, I think, Greg Leroy coming. Greg Leroy came. The only 2 council persons that took up the offer to meet with him was Pete and James, and we learned for the first time about the whole school formula. We didn't know through the first 9 TIFs about how the TIF funds the state formula and what impact that would have on I-89. I-89 lost out on all kinds of funds through the first 9 TIFs because we didn't understand the formula, and neither did the school board, and neither did the Alliance for Economic Development, and I don't think anybody on the Horseshoe understood it. If anybody did, they didn't say anything in the last 5 years. Nobody in the media talked about it. So it was clear that we had picked up a weapon, and we were deploying this weapon that we didn't understand how it worked. And that's because we weren't having enough public discussion, enough public input, and the media was just nowhere to be found. So in this process in the last year, we've found that TIFs work in a very different way than we thought. The impact on the schools is very different than we thought through the first 9 TIFs, and now we have something that's very different in terms of the schools. And I think I was there when the baby was born. Pete was there. We met with Laura Massenot and Greg Leroy, and Leslie Batchelor explained it to us. For the first time, I think we all understood that how the state formula, that these allocations to I-89 don't get counted to the state formula allocation. It had never been understood before that. And it's because he came and we looked into it and we had this discussion. When we as a council just relied on a couple of people a year and before to tell us, we missed out. We missed out by not having a greater, so I'm just asking, what's the rush? What is the rush to create 6 new TIF districts? We're expanding TIF 2 by $44 million. You've got $63 million to spend. I have 3 main problems with the way this has been presented. Number one, you cannot in any way prove causation. The idea that we're going to create these TIF programs and it is going to create $1.8 billion of investment is preposterous, it's farcical, it can't be proven. It is, you cannot say that you're going to give a developer 6% of their development costs and then you claim 100% of the economic development as a result of the TIF when you gave 6%. There is massive investment, massive public investment in this area, far, far greater than any other part of Oklahoma City. We built a new highway, for heaven's sakes. I-40, we're building a boulevard through this area. Project 180, GO bonds that went to Myria Gardens, MAPS 1, MAPS 3. We're building a downtown park, a downtown streetcar, which finally we got an article in Oklahoma yesterday indicating that it's a real estate development tool, a downtown convention center. The idea that this is going to create that couple of $2 billion in investment is preposterous. There is already, because of this massive public investment, things changing on the ground. Property values are exploding. I don't need to tell this council that because we couldn't afford the land for the convention center and we can't afford the land, all the land we want for the park. Why? Because the property values are wildly increasing already without us doing anything. You don't need to prime the pump. The bonfire is already going. You don't need this to get development, economic development. It's already in motion. It's already happening, and we've been on the short end of that because we can't afford it, because the property values are increasing. The property values, there's been 50 properties that have sold west of the park since the MAPS 3 vote. The average price of all land sales is more than 300% higher than their assessed value. There is, in addition, you don't know what development you've suppressed by unleashing this publicly subsidized private development. When you partner with certain private developers and you give them public money, well, the other developers have to compete against them. And not only do they have to compete against them, the existing development, the existing apartments, the existing retail, they have to compete against this artificial entity that you've unleashed into the market. So you don't know what economic development you've suppressed in that equation. And then there are clearly some investments that result in no economic development. Sarge, I'm tired of Sarge coming up here, items from council every week talking about this development on 6th and Broadway. Sarge wants to talk about that we bought land that Meg had, that then went to Chip Fudge, that then we bought with TIF funds. He thinks it's illegal because you can't buy from a council person. I think that's not true because technically we bought it from Chip Fudge. That is, you could argue about the intent of the law that you can't buy from a council person, but it's not in violation of the letter of the law. But that's not the issue, Sarge. The issue is, why did we use TIF funds to buy land on Southwest 6th and Broadway? What economic development came as a result of buying that land? Nothing, I would argue. So you cannot argue that these investments are just automatically resulting in economic development. Some clearly are not. There are some, the Frank Apartments on 11th and Francis. They came, they asked for TIF funds, they were denied, they built them anyway. Brent shared with me other developers who've come, who've asked, have been denied, they built them anyway. But if we had given them TIF funds, I'm sure that we would have claimed responsibility, we would have claimed causation, but that it cannot be proved. The but-for clause cannot be proven. The second problem I have is that this is clearly tax diversion. And I hope that that argument is settled today. I know that there's been this back and forth that you can't call this a tax diversion, that some of this development would not happen but for the TIF funds, and therefore it's new property tax. There is no free money. If you're not increasing tax here, you're just diverting it from somewhere else. And the 499 Sheridan should be the nail in the coffin to that argument, because that didn't require TIF funds to get built. It was going to be built anyway. It's in TIF 2. Now you're moving it. It would expire in 9 years, and it would just go into its normal taxing jurisdictions. But now you're going to remove it from that, and you're going to put it into a new court ashore so the clock starts over for 25 years. That is a tax diversion. So that I hope that that at least ends today, that we now call this what it is, which is we are moving taxes from one entity to another. And that the 499 Sheridan should be the nail in that coffin. There are winners in this program, I-89, but as Brian Bruce pointed out in the Journal Record, there are losers. And you are diverting money from education elsewhere throughout the state. And there are consequences to that. And you have to make sure that the development, that the money that you're doling out has greater benefit to society than the money you are taking away from education throughout the state, which is clearly suffering. Third, I think there's something here that I'm not smart enough to understand and that is not apparent. There has to be a reason for rushing to do 6 TIFs that hasn't been articulated publicly. I think that part of this is the convention center. That's just my own personal belief. I believe that when you now have created another $65 million of public improvements, another $9 million for the parking garage, we have this massive funding gap for the convention center complex. We don't have money for the parking garage. We don't have money for the convention center hotel. And in my gut, I think that's what this is really about. is that's what we're really voting on today, is to create something that then we can take to convention center hotels and we can propose and say, look what we've created. We've got a $65 million budget for public improvements. We've got all this new money for parking garages. Now let's make it happen. But in my gut, I think that's what's happening today, although it hasn't been publicly articulated. For those reasons, I'll vote no. I will probably be the only no vote, but I hope that the discussion continues, because we are the beneficiary, just as we were with the Oklahoma City Boulevard. We got a better project because we talked about it publicly. And I hope that that process continues as we move forward with the TIF programs. Thanks.
Okay. James?
This is an issue that I've gone back and forth on more than probably any of the other things that we've voted on. But and I think the main reason is a lot of what Councilman White said, I agree with. The only thing that I heard him say that I didn't agree with is that I think that this actually is good planning. It's a good future plan, which is why I'm going to end up voting for the plan. But then I think I've heard Kathy say that the A will be the first thing. Unless something significant changes, I will be voting against creating that first TIF district, which is the South CBD. For the reason is because I don't think that area needs it. And at some point, we do have to let our foot off of the gas and see if the market can take off. And but the reason I'm going to vote for this plan today is because there are areas that are in the plan that I think will need. If we voted in a couple years for the Cox Center site, I think that that's an area that probably will need it. The Producers Co-op, I think, will probably need it. But again, I just think it's time to see really what Pete was saying is that there's no way of really knowing if it's needed unless it's not there. So with that, I don't want to repeat everything that Pete said. He'll do it for him. He'll do it for me.
All right. Any other comments from council before we vote? All right. Do we have a motion on 9B? All right. Cast your votes. Passes 8-1. Is there a motion on 9C?
Wiley's going to request emergency.
On 9B, we'd asked for an emergency.
Why, Wiley?
In consideration of the First National Center, we currently have a lower tax base at this point. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 30 days. It could be a sale of that property, which could change the tax base, just to give us an opportunity to preserve it at this level. But it's up to council. I just wanted to make you aware. That's why we asked for it in this case.
All right. Is there a motion for the emergency on 9B?
Second.
All right. Cast your votes on the emergency. Emergency fails. It needs 7 of the 9 votes, and it only got 6. All right. Is there a motion on 9C?
Mayor, I'd like to move to amend it to include the 150% of budget.
All right. We have a motion and a second.
Just for clarification, are we amending the ordinance that's approving? You want me to put a clause in there that says that for the ordinance? We can do that.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Or do you want it in the plan?
What I want is a review at 150% of the initial budget.
Right. Which would be $600 million.
Whatever it is, 150%.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the amendment. You ready to vote the amendment? Is there a discussion on the amendment? All right, we're voting on the amendment. The amendment passes 8-1. All right. Is there a motion on 9C? All right, and this would be the amended 9C. Cast your votes, and it passes 8-1. All right, my thanks to the staff for such a thorough presentation and everyone who came down to express their views today. Let's move on to 9D. This is a public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9D? All right, how about a motion then? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9E is a public hearing regarding unsecured structures. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9E? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9F is a public hearing regarding abandoned buildings. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9F? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9G is a public hearing regarding the removal of property from 2 properties that are on the abandoned building list. Is there anyone here that hoped to speak on item 9G today? All right, how about a motion? Cast your votes. 9G passes unanimously. And 9H is a resolution that comes to us from the Planning Department, and Chris Farga is here to
Yeah, these
give
are
us more information.
housekeeping, but Chris is here to explain the specific changes of the requirements.
Okay.
Good morning. The item before you is to amend the existing housing programs policy. We do a routine review of this periodically to make sure that it conforms with the current HUD regulations and guidelines. This policy applies to our city's housing rehab programs exclusively. To the owner-occupied rehab, our housing exterior maintenance program, our HOP program, Housing Opportunities Program, and disaster recovery, all of these that are funded by HUD through home or block grant. Basically, these encompass about $2 million a year of HUD funding that goes through to these programs, and this is just our routine review. We've put the document on quite a bit of a diet. We've reduced its pages considerably by removing a lot that was procedural, referencing other appendices that references other ordinances that were included. So we've just slimmed it down. The major changes to this document would be with the HOP program. There were some inconsistencies with current HUD guidance. We updated the HOP program to illustrate that it now requires a different kind of a deed assignment to a person receiving a HOP home. We've changed some of the issues relating to the way we've done subordination. We previously required mortgage companies to fully assign the mortgage before the city would subordinate, and that policy has been in place for a number of years and had been working. However, currently the banking industry does not accept or deal with that policy in an increasing number, so we had to change that. Basically, this program applies to about 50 homes that we rehab each year and 50 storm shelters, and that's it. We had a complete listing of the changes in the back, the summary. So
all right,
that's what we have today.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions for Chris? All right, how about a motion then on 9H? All right, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9I, I understand we do not need executive session on this today. It just extends the time on negotiations?
That's correct.
All right. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9J, we do not need executive session. Is there a motion to pass the resolution? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9K, I understand we do not need executive session. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9L, I understand we do need executive session. I'll ask for a motion to move 9L into executive session. All right, cast your votes. That item moves into executive session. Item 9M is claims recommended for denial. Is anyone here hoping to speak under the item listed under 9M? All right, how about a motion then to approve 9M? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 10 is claims recommended for approval. 2 items are listed here. Did anyone hoping to show up to speak on those items today? All right, how about a motion on 10? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Then item 11 is items from council. James, you have anything for us today? Ed? Larry?
I'd just like to comment that I had the privilege of going to Phoenix last Thursday and Friday to view what was going on in Phoenix, to see what they're doing in economic development, what they're doing with their downtown, what some of their projects are, what they're doing in transportation. a very enlightening meeting, and it convinced me that Oklahoma City has done a great job of advancing its quality of life for its citizens, but this is not the time to stop. Even though there are obstacles out there, this is the time to buckle down and move forward and pull together to even raise the standard of living, the quality of life for all our citizens in central Oklahoma. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thanks, Larry. Pete?
I had a meeting yesterday afternoon with some representative from the Hispanic community in South Oklahoma City, concerned about the lack of attention, one, that they received from the Parks Committee when they asked that the Manuel Perez Park be included in the south part of the park, and second, asking about just the general concerns about the condition of that small park there. It's in Meg's ward, it's in Ward 6. And I suspect that we may be hearing from them as a group about trying to find another location perhaps, and or take an existing park that's that the changing of the name would be permitted under our name changing policy to try to more properly honor a Medal of Honor winner there. And I just wanted to, I offered my personal support, but it has to be, I believe it has to be a process that would come through the community, not something I'm going to be able to do. And so I think, but I would anticipate we'll probably hear from them in the next months or so concerning their concerns.
All right. Thanks, Pete. David?
Well, this morning we learned quite a bit about ad valorem taxes. I'm just going to make this request again. Hopefully someone will eventually pick up on it. But if we think in terms of the city's operating budget being close to $700 million a year, funded principally by sales tax.
400.
Sorry.
400.
400.
Or general fund, you're right. Operating 700. You're correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
When you include all the operational costs, it gets close to $700 million. Over half of that is funded through sales tax. And then if Oklahoma County is generating, I'm estimating, over $300 million a year in ad valorem taxes, those numbers really begin to add up. I'm just suggesting now's a good time, I think, for various levels of government, municipality, county, and state, to come together and revisit and see, for example, if there's duplication of services, duplication of expenditures that could be eliminated, to where we as a state, we as a county, we as a municipality begin to operate more efficiently and utilize these funds in a manner that I think we could generate surpluses if we kept everything at the current level, and then be able to utilize those surpluses to provide additional services, make additional improvements. I just believe personally that there's some efficiencies that could be gained by the various levels of government coming together, working together to come up with a solution. Thank you.
Meg?
Just briefly, Larry, I'm sorry, I think I missed part of your comments, but if you were speaking about Phoenix, I just wanted to kind of add on to that we did have a great trip with the chamber to look at Phoenix, and I personally came home feeling so good about Oklahoma City. Phoenix has a tremendous amount happening in their downtown and all over Phoenix. They've got interesting transit. We really learned a lot, particularly about the very unique relationship between Phoenix and Arizona State University, which I think might lead us to some great conversations with some of our higher learning institutions about what they might consider doing in downtown and around the inner city. But that all being said, I think as we got on the plane, we all felt so positive about the momentum in Oklahoma City and really proud of what we've done to diversify and solidify the future going forward.
Yeah. Thanks, Meg. John? Nothing? Okay. City manager reports.
To start, we have Mike Carrier here with CVB to give us his update.
Thank you, Mr. Couch. Council, good morning. Mike Carrier, President of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. talk to you just a minute about our second quarter. Obviously, we're on the same fiscal year you are on, so we finished our second quarter in December. Through the first 2 quarters of the current fiscal year, business is remaining good. Our hotel occupancy has remained above what we had feared that it might be, and certainly with some of the downturns that we've seen in other economic sectors, we have still continued to do pretty well in that sector. In terms of our activities, our convention and sports sales, for the first half of the year, we have booked 109 new conventions, meetings, activities coming into Oklahoma City. Represents about 96,000 future hotel room nights. That's about 49% of our goal. That puts us in very good position as we move forward to the second half of the year. Of that number, 61 groups and 53,000 room nights were booked in the second quarter. In terms of leads, and the lead numbers is our pipeline. That's groups that we're talking to that may be as much as 5 or 6 years out, or groups that are right on the cusp of making a decision for even 2017, or even 16, but mostly 2017 and beyond. We had approximately 98 groups and about 73,000 room nights in the second quarter in the leads. Have 205 leads and about 220,000 total room nights in the pipeline for the first half of the year. So a good, strong first half of the year. In the equine and livestock market, we continue to be extremely strong. Oklahoma City shows very, very well. It's kind of the place where we hang our hat. We brag about being the horse show capital of the world, and we certainly are. I've told you before, but this summer we'll have a new show. It's actually a show that's returning to Oklahoma City but hasn't been here in about 15 years, the Arabian Horse Youth Show. And so we're very, very pleased with that. The numbers for the fall show series were up. Not huge increases in numbers, but obviously anything that is on the upswing is very positive. The comments in the barns and in the show arena during the fall championship shows were all very, very positive. People are extremely pleased to be there. And one particular group, the National Reining Horse Association, which is just recently, with the help of the folks at the fairgrounds and long-term planning, has moved into new headquarters, the old Armory on Reno. That is their international headquarters, and so people from around the world that are involved in the sport of reining are constantly talking about Oklahoma City and seeing what we're doing. So the equine and livestock events, very, very good. One note, coming up in March, in about 3 weeks, is the 101st Oklahoma Youth Expo. We celebrated the centennial last year. Chance for kids from all over the state to come here and show their livestock that they have raised. So a big crowd of young people coming in, and a great 11-day event at the fairgrounds in Fort Oklahoma City. In the tourism side of the house, this is motor coaches, leisure tours, leisure travel, all of those types of things. The motor coach industry is doing pretty well. We are looking forward to this coming spring when the Museum of Art opens the Matisse show. We're getting great inquiries and reviews on the possibilities of group travel for that. But right now we're doing pretty good, 236 groups during the fall and winter. Spring is obviously our heavy time for group tours, and then with a blockbuster like the Matisse show, that also tends to bring in a considerable amount of business. 115 groups, 5,000 passengers, and about 1,100 room nights in the second quarter. In our marketing and communications, we are actively out pitching stories to travel journalists. That part of the industry has changed dramatically in the last 5 to 7 years. You don't see as many stories written in print publications, but there's a whole lot of stuff on the internet, a whole lot of digital processing now, and we're well into that. If you have not seen our monthly What to Do in OKC blog on our website and on a variety of the social media channels, that's something that is receiving some very nice comments. I would also tell you that we received, one of our folks was just in New York City a couple of weeks ago. We received a National Adrian Award from the Hotel Sales and Marketing Association for our website. And so we're very proud of that. And in the local Addies competition, we received a gold medal for our new website. So we're doing very well, continue to have challenges as the digital world looks to constantly change things. I don't understand algorithms about how you type in Oklahoma City events and what pops up. But Google changed the algorithm an average of twice a day last year. So I don't think anybody understands what's going on there, except that we continue to try to stay as current as we can and keep that as much a presence of mind as we can do to let the world know what is going on here in Oklahoma City. Last but certainly not least, in the second quarter, we still had a positive income of hotel tax. For the year, we were still up about just under 2% for the hotel bed tax. Obviously, that's great, considering all the other things that have been going on in the economy. I would remind you that that is an add-on tax that the people staying in the hotels are paying state and city sales tax and hotel tax, but they're paying a whole lot of money also in taxes outside those hotels. So food and beverage, anywhere that they are buying retail, et cetera, they're paying sales tax. So we feel that it's a very good investment for the hotel tax to be used as it is being used and to continue getting those people in here not only to see our city, but to help our economy. The last thing I want to tell you, and then I want to show you a couple, if we've got time, I want to show you a couple of quick videos. We're a member of Destination Marketing Association International, and DMAI has a program of accreditation for convention and visitors bureaus. It's an arduous process, but we were notified the end of December that the Convention and Visitors Bureau has become an accredited bureau of DMAI. We're very proud of that. What it says is that we're doing things right as it compares to standards in the industry. Here's the video. Here's one of the videos. This is one that we shot. This came from our videographer in-house. This is downtown in December, and obviously all of this video is something that VOKC, the CVB, others can use to help promote downtown in December again next year. It's about a 90-second video. This not only has some great shots of activity going on around the city during downtown in December, certainly the beauty of the area. And these are the kinds of things that particularly when we get into social media, these types of videos are extremely, extremely attractive for video usage and blog usage on the digital media channels. The second one is one of our ongoing series of district videos, and this is a rough cut. This is not the final of Stockyard City. And just to show you a little bit of the difference in the flair that we can put on the different districts to highlight what each one of them is about. You remember that the first couple that I've shown you out of this series, Academy of Contemporary Music provided the music. The background music for this one came from the Rodeo Opry Band. great way to showcase some of the Western heritage here in Oklahoma City and show people that they can see a variety of different things here. So that's it. Appreciate you guys as always. Thanks for the support, and be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Just a couple of comments on your behalf and the All Sports Association. We're entering into a very busy time with sports events coming in. The Big 12 women's basketball tournament is coming in. That's an event the Big 12 has moved around the region, but we've got it for the next 5 years, longest contract they've ever signed with the city. We also have the Big 12 baseball, which was held in Tulsa last year, back in Oklahoma City this year, and we also have a 5-year agreement on baseball. Again, I think that's the longest contract they've ever signed. We have NCAA men's basketball, first and second round. We expect the Sooners to host that regional or be the number 1 or 2 seed in that regional. We have the Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon coming up in April. We have the Olympic trials for kayak coming up in May. We have the Softball World Series coming up in June. And hopefully we'll have the NBA playoffs if things are continuing to
We have a very active calendar, and in addition to all of those things, all the conventions and conferences that take place during the spring as a normal rotation.
An American Ninja Warrior.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, if you didn't see that, I would suggest that all of you go into training immediately. American Ninja Warrior, if you've seen that on NBC, we were selected over Dallas and Denver to be host city in the South Central Middle U.S. Whoever wins here goes to Las Vegas for the finals. It's a very interesting project because they are going to, first time they've ever filmed at a state capitol. They're doing it on the south lawn of the state capitol, the parking lots and lawn there with the capitol in the background. A lot of people have asked about how do they get tickets to see it. That's an NBC issue, not our issue, but I will tell you this, they tape at night. They start at about 6 in the evening and go until midnight is their first taping session. Their second taping session begins at midnight and goes till 4 a.m. And if you have a ticket to see one of those tapings, you have to stay the entire time. So if any of you all would like to go watch from midnight to 4 a.m., I think we can probably help you get tickets for that part. Should be a lot of fun, and it'll be obviously great publicity for Oklahoma City. So.
Yeah, I stand to be enlightened.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike, for all your work.
Maureen Heffernan had a presentation scheduled this morning. She had a conflict that came up, so we will bring her back on the docket in the next week or two. Touch on the sales tax collections report. It was down this month. It was down $825,000 below prior year. Year to date, we're about $5 million below projections, about $2.5 million below last year's collections. Pretty much in line with what we talked about at the workshop we had a couple of weeks ago. But I do want to point out, you can look at a sales check in a couple of different lights. Another way to look at this sales tax check, it's the second largest sales tax check we've ever received. But it was behind last year's. Well, last year's was the largest single sales tax check we've
for that same time period.
For that same period. February always reflects the latter part of December and the first part of January. So you get those last Christmas days. And so historically, February is always our largest sales tax check. Just saying, there's a couple of ways you can look at the checks as we go forward. But what we received was not particularly different than what we talked about in our workshop.
All right. All right, citizens to be heard. I'll ask people to keep their comments to 3 minutes or less. Pat King. Morning,
King,
Pat.
11800 North Ecker.
Thank you
very much for your service, Council, Mayor. Appreciate it. Bring you greetings from the residents of North Ecker. I'm just nobody special, citizen, taxpayer, concerned community coordinator, I guess. In the interest of time, just you can see I've made a little presentation there for you that shows where we are located. We're in the area of Air Depot and 122nd. John Pettis is our council member. We represent about 25 homes, 25 families. Most of us are, I say us, most of the residents there are retired, fixed income. They represent people that have lived in this area since the 50s and the 60s. On the second page, you can see what a typical home on Ecker Boulevard looks like, or Ecker Road. It's an older neighborhood. It's kind of lost in amongst the area of extremely rapid development. You'll notice that area is booming. We are in what we used to call Worcester area. Now is Oakdale, or it's serviced by Jones and Edmond high schools. What's at issue is something has happened, and we don't know exactly what. The residents are miffed or questioned. For some unknown reason, in about 2005, we wake up in the morning and find that someone has changed Ecker Road's sign from a green sign from a maintained road, which Ecker has always been a publicly maintained road. That is not a question. That is undeniable. And we wake up one morning and find that it's been changed to white. Nobody has been notified. And we start making phone calls and find out that the county has no idea what happened. The city is, it's hard to track down exactly what happened, but the maintenance on the road just quit, and the road has since become deteriorated. You'll see that it was paved in the 70s. I think you remember when the city brought out 90-gallon trash cans. About that time, it was chip sealed by either the county or the city. You'll notice that on the bottom sign, there's actually the road sign at the corner of Ecker and 116th, where y'all removed the sign but forgot to put up a new sign. So it's, obviously you missed a sign there. If you'll notice on Leonard Sullivan's records, Oklahoma County Assessor, you'll notice a couple of the homes are built in 1958. So there was homes, and that road existed a long time ago. And thanks to the help of the Public Works Department, you guys got some great guys over there. They've showed me that the GIS shows that this area was adopted September 6, 1960. That's the first handout attachment that I provided for you. The second attachment I wanted to bring to you is every resident on Ecker has a mortgage abstract, and it's item number 2 that I've seen, and it's dated April 24, 1961, and it shows that the residents, back when Fred Snyder was our commissioner, had a really close relationship where we had built and they maintained our roads, and you can see that we had sold that road to the county, and that they had promised to maintain it. And then, of course, the third document shows that I believe in 2009, the city actually had to hold a hearing to turn back portions of 116th, which is one of the side streets, back to the citizens because it was in such disrepair that the city said, well, we'll just give it back to you, the individuals on the side of the road. So there was some kind of ownership there. So that's of concern. What happened in that time frame to say the city will no longer maintain this road?
Yeah, we ought to be able to figure this
That's a
out.
legitimate question. Now, besides that, and I'm sorry. If you just
Yeah, just make
real quick, I'm going to wrap it up.
Yeah, sure.
This is a public school bus route. I want to show you on page 5, introduce you to Chelsea. Chelsea is our neighbor. She was a young lady that the Edmond School District could not drive their buses down Ecker. It's gotten so bad she had to walk to 122nd. You may have recalled the news article of September 23rd, 2013. She was hit while waiting for the bus there. That is an extremely, extremely busy, dangerous area. You might also recall that, it's still fresh on our minds. In 2012, the bicyclist that was killed just less than a mile east of there. There's still a bicycle there memorial. This is a very dangerous area. This is an area that has almost been forgotten while development occurs in the central part of the city, far northeast Oklahoma, especially the older areas. There's little infrastructure. The roads are deteriorating. And lastly, and I thank you for your patience. Lastly, I've got a letter from Kim Lanier, the superintendent. It talks about how the road is in such a deteriorated condition that it's almost too dangerous and costly to drive their school buses down it. It's only a half-mile long, but you need almost a four-wheeler. And it's a sad situation. There's 5 or 6 kids that are picked up every day, precious children. Some of them are Native American kids, and they can't even afford. They can't even. We can't afford to repave that road.
Let us look into it, and
yes.
we'll get you some answers.
Okay.
Thanks for being so thorough on your presentation.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right. Joe Sarge Nelson.
Mayor, on his question, I'd like, if there is whatever the answer is, I'd like to know exactly what that is. I have I've got probably 100 miles of road in Ward 4 that was once maintained by the county on the same kind of contracts he's talking about, where people deeded it to the county. They didn't sell it to the county, they just deeded it. The county maintained it. They've now changed the rules at the county and says they can't maintain private roads. And the county is now referring people to us as if somehow that's our fault. And at least that's what happened in my part of town. So if there's a solution that says that we're going to repave this road, I've got about 100 miles of road I need repaved in my area. It's the same situation. I'm positive it's the same.
There's a couple neighborhoods in Ward 1 that are like that too.
All right. Joe, go ahead.
Joe Sarge Nelson. I'm here today on a matter. It's going to be a little disturbing, but I presented an envelope to Larry McAtee 2 weeks ago at a council meeting, and in that envelope it requested an investigation be rendered. And Tuesday, I think of this past week, I was asked to visit with City Council, Mr. Jordan and Mr. Wiley over there in reference to that letter. And we discussed mainly this document right here, 4 pages of the timeline in reference to my paper. Well, I was kind of surprised when I'd already had this document all put together and did my investigations and this and that, whatever have you, that the Daily Oklahoman this past Sunday in the business section came out with practically 3/4 of my information already that I already had typed up, and made reference to Mickey Edwards and, of course, Mr. Ez took, and the trolley, which I've said all along, this is what we need back in business. Well, now to the ugly part. First, this is not of a personal nature, and I'm sure the party will take it that way, but I hope not. I'm just doing this because it's just the rules of the game, and I'm sorry for the word. And like I said, the meeting that was held on February the 16th was cordial, and it was held between the presences of the people I told you about, Kenneth Jordan and Mr. Wiley and myself and my secretary, and it was concerning the timeline report identified in the addresses of 101 Southwest 6th Street, lots, not parcels, 27 through 32, all of which are comprised in Block 22, South Edition of Oklahoma City. This meeting was held at the request of City Councilor by and through the request of a document presented, as I said, to Larry McAtee, Ward 3. The land in question, along with many other buried properties connecting other properties, have in one way or another been quietly brought up long before these MAP projects became a reality, because they've been on the drawing boards since the date of their conception back in 1993, and then carefully mapped out where their final resting place would be. This was long pre-planned. These meetings were held behind closed doors, private dinner tables, and places where funds and conversations flowed openly. Ms. Margaret Salyer of Ward 4, for the next part, is and has been connected with city government from all levels and worked with major companies as well, including Chase Banking, worked with major companies as well, including other several boards, and connected with the folks that witnessed the downfall of the Penn Square Bank that damaged a great many people, and is now connected with varied agencies of the city government and a member of the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust that has been spoke of on numerous occasions and also here today, and as well as a sitting member of this city's council. Insider trading is and has been a known fact and going on for years.
Sarge, I'm going to ask you and make a comment, please.
Ma'am, I'm asking for your resignation politely. Will you
I
give
know.
me my 3 minutes?
Sarge, you're already at 3.5 minutes.
All right.
Sarge, I am
Then
fully aware
Based
that,
upon the fact that you work
Excuse me.
for the economic and you control the mass board funding, the city general fund, and have been connected with this stuff, you had inside information, and I know of other people that have too. You purchased land knowing that that was where that streetcar and definitely the hotel convention center was going. You sold it and went through a private source twice the same way and sold it back to the city of Oklahoma City, an agency of which you represent.
Sarge, you know that
on
is
the
not
board.
true. You met with the
Therefore,
city attorney's
a
office.
conflict of
You know
interest
all of
does
the facts.
exist, and I'm calling for your resignation.
Fine.
And I will be here next week, and if it's board meeting, the council don't handle it, I'll legally get it done. Thank you.
All right, we have executive session. We'll be back.